Hello everyone, I'm Vanguard and today we're going to take a look at the general setup, so the gear that I used during our latest photo set. I would consider this setup as a medium to heavy recon setup because it allows the Stalker to go around the zone and to survive both anomalies and firefights, although with probably a medium type of protection, so not the best but also not the worst. And also the presence of a medium-sized backpack would allow the Stalker to bring along some provisions like food and drinks, and also additional ammunition, tools, and also to have a certain amount of empty space so that he can store artifacts and other objects that he may find during his travels. Okay, so let's start first of all with the uniform that I used. I'll be using this stick to show you around. So this is a MTP multi-terrain pattern smock, and these are the combat trousers that come along with the smock. So this gives a pretty decent camouflage. I mean, it uses the MTP camouflage, which is, in my opinion, pretty decent in an area like the zone, so it doesn't really give your position off, and also it is pretty good as a uniform because it has a lot of pouches and a lot of space to store other items. I know that many people do not agree with the usage of modern camouflage like the MTP, which is essentially a modified version of the multicam camouflage, but to be honest, I don't see the problem with that because I mean, it can be very easily found on eBay and on other sites, and well, there is a very big number of these uniforms around, and they are also pretty cheap. So I mean, of course, inside the zone they would be pretty expensive, but that would not prevent you from buying them as long as you have the money. So if you are an experienced stalker, you could buy one of these suits and create a nice setup, in my opinion. So you may not agree with this, but as I said, it is a pretty common and easily found camouflage and uniform. Then we go down, and under the smock I would be wearing this telniashka, which is a pretty common piece of clothing, especially in post-Soviet states like Ukraine. Then there is this sweater which helps to keep the body warm, of course. So it is made of a pretty thick fabric, which allows the wearer to remain pretty warm. And of course, a very simple yet durable leather belt. Also, we have two bandanas, actually one bandana and one scarf. This is a very simple green bandana which I use on my head because it is a pretty simple yet effective way to camouflage the top part of your head. And then this is a Marpat, I believe, multifunctional scarf. It is advertised like that, and it can be used both as a bandana or as a cover for the face. And I use this scarf to cover my lower part of the face, so from the nose down, so both nose and the mouth. Down here we can see these two patches which are attached to the right and left shoulder. The first one is our Pripyat logo, so patch, and the second one is a pretty general radiation warning patch, which can be easily found inside the zone. So now we move on to the protection part of the gear. So now here we can see a pretty simple bulletproof vest, which uses both Kevlar and steel inserts. In this case, I have installed, of course, a simple foam insert, foam panel inside to keep it rigid, but I mean, in reality, you could put whatever you find. It is slightly modified because these are the shoulder straps, which should go, of course, in these retainers, but I modified them to be on the front part of the vest, because this will allow me to carry a backpack pretty easily, because otherwise it would be pretty hard to put the shoulder straps over these shoulder straps. So it would be like two shoulder straps on top of each other, so it would be pretty uncomfortable. And also this will allow me to insert under these you see these shoulder straps some items. For example, during the photo set I used to put inside this shoulder strap a magazine for the weapon, so it is pretty nice. The other part regarding the protection for this gear is the gas mask, which is right here. This is a PMK3 gas mask, which is also slightly modified because I have changed the head harness from the standard rubber head harness to a more comfortable fabric head harness, which I took from a M61 finished gas mask, so it can be easily done, and this makes the gas mask much more comfortable. And here we can find the filter, which is a KB2V filter in Russian KB2V, and it is a very common type of filter for this mask. The mask itself is pretty modern because it is the current issue gas mask for the Russian army, but honestly this can be found on eBay for $20 to $30, so it isn't hard at all to get your hands on this mask. And it is pretty nice because it has a pretty good field of view. It is comfortable, lightweight, and as I said, it is pretty easy to find. So it is modern, but still it is a very great mask and pretty cheap. Now we move on to the load bearing part of the setup, and we start with this Molly load bearing belt. I didn't use this type of belt during the photo set because I simply didn't have it. I had already ordered it, but it arrived only a few days ago. So at the time I had to use the waist strap of the backpack. So I had to be a bit creative, but now that I have it, I can say that this is much better. Both because it uses Molly, and as we all know, Molly can be easily customized, and at the same time, when I have to remove the backpack, I can keep the equipment, so the pouches and all the other stuff, on me, because as I said, when I was using the backpack with its waist belt, when I removed the backpack, I also removed the pouches, so it would be pretty bad. So it is a pretty simple setup. We have two pouches. These are used to keep the magazines. Well, during the photo set, I used the VSS Vintores, which is a pretty interesting and nice sniper rifle. But it is not mine. It belongs to my colleague, to the S.T.A.L.K.E.R Spectre. So he gave it to me for this photo set, but as I said, I do not own it. So in this overview of the gear, we will not be seeing the rifle. So as I said, here we can put probably 4 magazines pretty easily. So it would be 4 magazines, each holding 20 rounds. So it would be pretty nice, especially for a sniper rifle. So you do not have to shoot that much as an assault rifle. Then we move on the other side of the belt, and we find 2 pouches. The first pouch, this small pouch here, is a simple green pouch, and it is used to contain the medkit. As you can see here, we have the AI2 medkit, which can be very easily recognized as this small orange box, bright orange box. This syringe here is for a painkiller. Then we can find some medication for to prevent infection, so antibiotics, then other tablets to prevent the effects of radiation sickness and chemical and biological weapons and threats. So it is essential in the zone. Of course, in reality, it is a extremely outdated type of medkit. All the medicines inside are expired, so it is only to be shown and not to be used under any circumstances. So there are two of these medkits, and then we move on to the other pouch, which uses a pretty interesting woodland camouflage. And here we can see a pretty simple bandage pack. So this comes from Poland. Actually, it is not a Soviet or Russian bandage, but it is still pretty nice because it is modern. So I think that it expired on 2008. So yeah, it is expired, but if you take in consideration the Soviet counterpart, they have been expired since probably 1960, 1970. So I mean, this is a modern counterpart, which is pretty nice, and it is also very cheap. Let's continue with the other part of the load-bearing equipment, and it is the backpack. This is a pretty simple MOLLE backpack, which can be easily found everywhere. There are Chinese copies, there are German copies of this design, so it can be found everywhere, and it contains more or less 30 to 40 liters, so it is not that big but also not that small. And I have attached to the left side a knife, which actually it is a fake knife because as we said during our Q&A session, we are from Italy, so in Italy you cannot bring outside of the house even a butter knife. So yeah, the law is very strict. So this is made of plastic and it is completely useless. It is only there for for aesthetic purposes. And on the other side, we have a pretty standard Soviet canteen made of aluminium or steel. I'm not sure about the type of metal, but it is made out of metal, so it is on the other side. Then we have 1, 2, and other two compartments. So these are the smaller pouches, and then they are the main compartments of the backpack, which are pretty good. And I use one of the main compartments to carry the gas mask, the filter, and the other equipment. And then the internal pouch, the main pouch, which is on the back, is used to carry whatever I found around the zone. And these other two pouches can carry both other medical equipment or food or whatever. So this is a pretty nice, simple, and effective backpack. Now we can move on to the food and beverage. And here we can find a small cup made out of metal, pretty simple yet effective. Here we find some canned food, which is the traditional tourist delight, which can be found in all the S.T.A.L.K.E.R games. And then here we find a S.T.A.L.K.E.R energy drink, which is also very popular inside the zone. Now we move to the electronic devices. The first device is this one here, which is a USB flash drive, which actually in origin was a small MP3 player, but it can serve as a USB flash drive, so it is very useful. Then here we find an example of PDA, a modern version of the PDA. So it is simply a smartphone, very old smartphone and pretty banged up, so in bad condition, but it still works. So it can, it can be used to send text messages, to view the map of the zone and all the other stuff. So it is a pretty nice and lightweight PDA. So personal assistant. Then we have a digital watch, which is extremely simple, and it is actually a Chinese digital watch. So it costs like 1 or 2 euros. So very simple and yet very useful inside the zone. Then here we have an old style compass, which is always useful in the case that the PDA is no longer functional. And then I forgot to talk about the gloves, which are made out of leather, and they are half gloves. I know that they are not the best type of gloves because they leave a part of the end unprotected, but they are still pretty well, cool, and they are pretty typical inside the zone. So it is mostly an aesthetic choice because they look nice. Here there is probably 1 meter of paracord, so of string, which can be used for almost everything. And here there are 2 copies of the type of anti-radiation medicine that can be found inside the game, so they are just 2 replicas. And well, I think I've talked about everything about this setup. As I said, it is pretty modern, but all the equipment and gadgets that are used with this setup can be easily found both online and inside the real stores. If you have further comments and suggestions, please let me know, and thank you for watching.